first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. Today marks 17 years since the 9/11 terror attacks, a day that changed America. In remembrance, Governor Doug Burgum ordered U.S. and North Dakota flags be flown at half-staff. Of the thousands who lost their lives that day, several were from our great state. We remember Ann Nelson of Stanley, Robert Rasmussen of Hunter, and James Halverson of Devils Lake, who were in the World Trade Center, and Al Marchant of Fargo, who was on one of the planes. The first 3 fighter jets to take flight in response to the attacks were also from North Dakota. In honor of 9/11, more than 100 first responders from across the state participated in the North Dakota stair climb at the Capitol. The money raised during the event goes to Fallen Fighter Fighters Foundation. Daniela Hurtado was there.
A turnout bigger than ever.
Just to walk it and think about what they were thinking and going through, it's a big thought, and it keeps you going. It is a lot of work, and you carry a lot of weight, and you're doing it just as a memory.
First responders from all over the state going up the Capitol stairs in honor of the lives lost in 9/11. They're going up with their entire gear, and I'm not even wearing half of it.
Climbing 17 floors 6.5 times to be exact, to remember the 110 stories responders had to go up in the Twin Towers.
Thinking about what they had to go through on that day, and they were carrying a lot more equipment than we were, hoses and axes and all different types of tools up them flights of stairs to help people.
Each person also got a badge with one of the 343 firefighters who died on 9/11. They say this helps the victims know people haven't forgotten about them.
Now that we're 17 years out, I think there's a whole generation out there that wasn't or isn't familiar with it, like we are.
Regardless, firefighters of all ages climb to show their respect. They say they want to do this for many years to come.
Also in the city today, brats were on the grill for a special picnic at the Bone Armory to show appreciation for military and first responders. The Bismarck-Mandan Chamber of Commerce and the National Guard hosted the event.
We'll show we can't forget, and we need to continue to tell the story to our children so they don't forget, because a lot of Americans have paid a heavy price since 9/11.
Governor Burgum emphasized the importance of continuing to take care of those who have returned from war and are continuing to suffer from its effects. Let's throw it over now to Kevin for a quick check on weather. Let's move to South Dakota.
Yeah,
Thanks,
let's do it.
Kevin. Well, most politicians agree behavioral health programs need more funding. A 2016 Surgeon General report shows that every $1 spent on prevention saves $64 in treatment and incarceration costs. There are now 5 bills to keep that progress going. The bill drafts approved today would give the Department of Human Services $600,000 for prevention services, which would save, in turn, more than $38 million. The Free Through Recovery program, which is only for incarcerated people right now, would be expanded to the public.
The only individuals that have access to the program are people who've already committed a crime. And if we want to be able to offer services sooner, we need to be able to expand the program upstream and really support individuals who don't need to commit a crime in order to get access to those services.
The cost of all 5 of those bills, if passed as is, would be more than $31 million. In that same meeting, legislators learned about the refugee resettlement program. More than 8,000 refugees have come to North Dakota since 1997, and a study shows the benefits significantly outweigh the costs. The study shows refugees in the Fargo and Grand Forks region, which is where more than 90% live, contributed nearly $900 million to the area's GDP and provided workers for the health and manufacturing industries.
Refugees within 3 or 4 years are paying back their original costs, and long-term they're meeting our major workforce challenge.
And we're hoping that this will eventually work out, because we're not the only people who need them.
Hogan plans to share this study with the state's congressional delegation. The program is controlled by the federal government. Well, North Dakota is getting a new tool to help fight against drug addiction. The Addiction Resource Center rolls out on Friday. It's a call line and an online portal to help those struggling. Paul Strucklin, whose daughter battled drug addiction, says this will save lives.
When we were trying to get help for our daughter, a lot of doors got slammed in our face and people would say, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. Well, this gets those no's out of the way.
Counselors, treatment centers, and providers are all vetted and individually matched to fit those persons' needs. Well, checkpoints across the state for Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaigns resulted in 95 impaired driving arrests and citations. 524 citations were given in total, including 43 DUI and 31 drug-related arrests. This was in an effort to reach their Vision Zero initiative goal of zero motor vehicle fatalities. And the second annual Disrupt Well Summit took place today in Bismarck with executives from companies like Deuce and Bobcat and General Motors on hand to speak about how technology is changing their industries.
It's trying to build efficiencies to reduce our fatalities, to make our operations more efficient, and to make sure we protect the public dollars, and we're stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and we want to make sure we do that through innovation and disruptive technologies.
Cybersecurity was also a big focus of today's summit, talking about how its impact on agriculture and energy. In transportation news, the Bismarck City Commission voted tonight to continue the Green Route bus service to the University of Mary. But they need more riders. Right now, they say they only have about 250, and they're looking to double that.
There's a great deal of potential for ridership. We just got to find the right combination of promotion to the students to get them used to riding the bus, and once they see how easy it is, they'll ride more.
The commission also set the date for a public hearing on the 2019 budget for September 25th. About an hour ago, Prairie Public and AARP held a debate between U.S. House candidates Kelly Armstrong and Max Schneider. They covered all the bases, including taxes, jobs, education, and the plight of family farmers amid a trade war. Tomorrow, Secretary of State hopefuls Al Jaeger and Josh Boucher will square off, and on October 5th, it's Heidi Heitkamp and Kevin Kramer's turn. A Bismarck man is charged after threatening a group of teens with a knife. Documents say 4-year-old William Lagman saw a teenager try to pull his son's pants down outside of Wachter Middle School on September 4th. They say it was just a game called Pants War. Lagman is accused of pulling a knife out of his pocket and holding it up to one of the teen's shoulders. He's charged with 2 counts of terrorizing. A Fargo man has been sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for possession of child pornography. A tip led to the seizure of multiple files depicting sexual exploitation of children from 26-year-old Damian Scott Oliveira's computer. He admitted to receiving and possessing child pornography when investigated. After his prison sentence, he faces 15 years supervised release. The driver of a jet ski that struck 2 girls in June, killing 1, has pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge. Dean Barch was thrown from his jet ski on Strawberry Lake on June 9th. Authorities say he failed to secure the kill switch lanyard, so the jet continued on, striking the 2 girls in an inner tube. 1 girl died from her injuries and the other continues to recover. They chose not to press felony charges, saying they could not prove negligence. Barch will pay a fine of $475. The Mandan Fire Department is upgrading its pumping system thanks to a $42,000 grant from the Endeavor Foundation. The system will now use compressed air foam, allowing firefighters, specifically in the grass firefighting unit, to extinguish fires with much less water and effort. Ahead of Hurricane Florence, Red Cross volunteers from North Dakota have their sights set on helping those on the East Coast. The Hanks from Valley City took off today with a truckload of supplies to help people in the line of the hurricane. The Hanks are scheduled to arrive in North Carolina Thursday, where they will help feed emergency personnel and people displaced from the storm.
It feels good to help people, and we've got the time and we kind of know what we're doing, sort of. And so it's a good thing to pay it forward and go help people.
The Hanks have volunteered nearly 24 times, mostly during hurricanes. 2 North Dakotans are in D.C. for the National Farmers Union Beginning Farmer Institute. This 2-day session looks to develop leaders in the next generation of family agriculture. Amanda Martin and Tyler Neubauer are representing North Dakota and will receive technical training. On the anniversary of 9/11, top U.S. officials honor the memory of the victims and their families during a memorial service at the Pentagon. Our D.C. correspondent Alana Austin reports.
This somber day, a fog hangs over the Pentagon, with loved ones reflecting on the gravity of their loss.
Like if it was yesterday, yes. Every day he's in our hearts.
September 11th, 2001, Sergeant First Class Jose Caldron went into work but never made it home. He was just 9 months out from retirement when terrorists claimed his life and the lives of many others at the country's military nerve center. Horror struck the Pentagon, the World Trade Center in New York City, and this field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Since Cauldron's death, his daughter Vanessa and the rest of the family celebrate the sergeant's love for them and the country.
We always remember him, his smile, his way of always making us laugh and taking good care of us.
Vanessa's father was one of 184 people killed here at the Pentagon 17 years ago. Vice President Mike Pence says the nation continues to honor those legacies by fighting back against terrorism.
Those courageous men and women turned a day of tragedy into a triumph of freedom.
Pence says the deadliest terror attack on American soil brought the nation together and millions of American heroes stepped up to serve.
We will not be intimidated. Our spirit cannot be broken.
As national security remains a top issue, Pence says recent historic defense investments from the federal government will protect the U.S. from enduring another similar tragedy. At the Pentagon, I'm Alana Austin.
Pope Francis plans to meet with several top U.S. church officials at the Vatican on Thursday. The president of the U.S. Conference of the Catholic Bishops requested the meeting as the church in the U.S. faces thousands of clergy sex abuse cases. An investigative report released last month by a Pennsylvania grand jury found more than 300 priests sexually abused over 1,000 children over more than 70 years, often while church leaders covered up their crimes. Around the world, today the newly appointed U.S. Special Envoy for North Korea, Steve Biegun, met with the Foreign Ministry on nuclear envoy for South Korea.
Now we are faced with challenges as well as opportunities in terms of making progress on denuclearization and establishing a peace regime on the Korean Peninsula.
We need to do everything we can to take the most of this moment of opportunity.
This was Biegun's first diplomatic trip abroad after taking the position. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is very concerned with the lack of action by world leaders to tackle the issue of global warming. He added that if change isn't made to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2020, the world faces a risk of entering what he calls runaway climate change. He issued this message ahead of the Paris Accord climate negotiations set to take place in Poland in December. And as Hurricane Florence threatens the East Coast, evacuations are in order and the country is coming together to help prep. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is saying it could be much more devastating than we believe.
This storm is not a glancing blow. This storm is going to be a direct hit. It is going to be a long time and a long-term recovery when we talk about the effects of Florence.
More than 1 million people are under evacuation orders, with the Carolinas expected to be hit the hardest. More on that now. Meteorologist Kevin Lawrence.
Molly, thank you very much. Again, let's talk about Florence because it is going to be, no doubt, the biggest weather story of the next several days, if not weeks here. And again, still way out there in the open Atlantic, but that's going to change the next few days. Still a Category 4. That won't change. Winds sustained right now at 140 miles per hour. Likely staying as a 4 all the way until about the time it makes landfall here in North Carolina sometime Thursday afternoon through Friday morning, and that is just the beginning. The winds will be intense. That alone will do a lot of destruction, but it's the rain. Even after the system departs the region, we're going to, or is no longer a hurricane, we're going to see upwards of 20 to 30 inches of rain.
Mother Nature put on a show in the skies over the Arctic Circle, with more dazzling expected tonight. A local Northern Lights photographer says this display was a great start to the aurora watching season. The long, dark nights of winter are usually the best time for viewing. Tonight, we may even be able to see that in our backyards, too. The Space Weather Prediction Center says a Kevin, help me with this. Geomagnetic storm is expected tonight. With increases, the chances of catching the auroras, Montana and North Dakota are on the list of the northern states who may be able to catch the show if skies aren't overcast. And the man who has that answer, Kevin Lawrence.
Problem.
Oh, no.
Problem, right? We have a chance for cloud cover, but it might be thin enough where we might be able to partake of the northern lights should they occur again. Zachary Hargrove, look at this. I got to show you this photo. It's impressive. It was here in North Dakota early this morning.
Is that in Bismarck?
He's one of our very own. No, this is from Lake Sakakawea, I believe, but Zach works for the National Weather Service in Bismarck, and he snapped this. Check out his Facebook page, Furious Skies Expert.
Thanks,
local
Zach.
expert.
That looks awesome.
He's a great guy.
All right, well, look up to the skies tonight. Maybe we'll get lucky and see you tomorrow.